Welcome. Today we're talking to Kareem Dale about CPACE financing, and specifically we're going to cover three things: what it is, what the benefits are, which are many, and that's why we're talking to Kareem about this, and how it works. Welcome, Kareem.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Well, why don't we just dive in with the kind of our detailed agenda and start going from there?
So, today we're diving into commercial property assessed clean energy. We'll do a brief round of introductions to the topic and speakers. We'll talk about the history of CPACE and how it works, and demonstrate how CPACE worked out for our client, Houston Business Development Incorporated, a nonprofit project that we recently completed.
I am really looking forward to this. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Jerry Frank, and I'm co-founder and CEO of STRATAFOLIO. And STRATAFOLIO is a cloud-based software solution that helps commercial real estate owners with financial management, asset management, operations management, and investor management. A big part of what we do is help owners drive down the costs of operating their companies. And we are excited to talk about CPACE because that is one way to do it.
And I'm Kareem Dale, Director of Energy Productivity at Key HTX Development and Holdings. At Key, we use energy efficiency and renewable energy to create new opportunities, whether for our clients, people, or the planet. Smart energy solutions cut waste, eliminate greenhouse gas emissions, and improve local quality of life. As a Director of Energy Productivity at Key, I bring over 20 years of project management experience from the residential, commercial, multifamily, and public sector to bear on our projects. Using an integrated approach to address the whole building needs, from maintenance to equipment to water use, at Key, we're able to identify the maximum value for the client as well as the building.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to get into the history and the value of what CPACE really is.
So let's talk CPACE. Commercial property assessed clean energy, CPACE as it's most commonly heard, is a relatively new, long-term financing tool for energy and water improvements on commercial, industrial, and nonprofit buildings. CPACE as a financing tool has grown tremendously because of these top five benefits. Positive cash flow. Most states require a savings to investment ratio of 1.0 or greater. In Texas, a 1.0 at least is required. There is zero to little down payment required. The financing terms are up to 20 years, and the financing is tied to the building. So if you decide to sell the building, the CPACE assessment transfers to the new owner. In the event of a default, the CPACE assessment does not accelerate, and you are only responsible for any payment in the arrears, not the total CPACE financed amount, much like a mortgage.
Mhm.
So let's talk about CPACE history and value. Historically, there have been very few or even zero ways to finance energy efficiency improvements.
Mhm.
These improvements are often expensive and have a long payback period, up to 20 years. So conventional lenders aren't necessarily interested, nor do they have the in-house expertise to underwrite these type of projects. On top of that, most building owners are only interested in projects that have a 3-year payback or less.
Mhm.
CPACE was introduced as a way to overcome these obstacles. In 2009 in California, financing is based on the building value and any outstanding mortgages. A good rule of thumb is roughly 20% to 30% of the building value is how much can be financed through CPACE.
Interesting. So who actually benefits from CPACE?
That is a great question. CPACE is used across a number of different scenarios. It applies to new construction. Project developers can use CPACE to offset their capital stack and obtain lower cost of capital in lieu of mezzanine or high cost capital. You can use CPACE for remodeling an existing building with no money down, very little down, limiting your out of pocket expenses. You can stretch your dollars further, obtaining CPACE financing in addition or instead of your capital budget. Plus, you may be able to add bonus projects based on how much you can finance. If
Nice.
you're inter- if you're interested in selling your property, CPACE also gives you a competitive advantage.
And how does it give you a competitive advantage?
Using CPACE, you can upgrade the building and make it more competitive while simultaneously increasing the building's value and reducing the operating cost.
Oh, interesting.
So, after hearing all of this, it's the next logical question is, how does CPACE work?
Mhm.
At Key, we take you from start to finish. We begin by developing the project, conducting an energy and building audit to identify the potential scope of improvements, how much should be financed through CPACE. With CPACE, we can finance projects such as HVAC replacement, renewable energy, electric vehicle infrastructure, and even measures that provide health and safety on top of energy savings, such as motion sensors, lights, and ventilation.
Mhm.
We'll work with you to present the project and get a competitive rate from a private CPACE lender. If you have an outstanding mortgage on the property, we and the lender will work closely with you to educate your mortgage holder on the financing and how to get their consent.
Mhm.
In Texas, we have to get approval to proceed from Texas Pace Authority. As an energy expert, we can pull together the entire application packet for their review and approval. Once approved, the loan is closed and funding is approved.
Mhm.
We also handle the installation process. With CPACE, you can finance hard and soft costs to further reduce your out-of-pocket expenses. Finally, you repay the financing on your annual property taxes. With a properly designed project, you should have sufficient utility bill savings to cover the annual repayment.
Mhm.
Plus, if you get started soon, you may not have to make payments for 24 months because it will take a few months to close financing, then in some cases, an up to a year to install a project.
Mhm.
Altogether, it can take between 60 to 90 days from start to installation. The range depends on whether you own the building outright, have one or more mortgages on the property. Owning
Mhm.
the building outright is usually the fastest route to getting CPACE financing. But if you have outstanding mortgages, it can take up to 90 days. With CPACE improvements installed and financing in place, you can lower your operating costs while increasing your net operating income as well as your assets value.
So if you're not in Texas, do you work with the other authorities across the other states?
So every PACE program is designed a little bit differently. So from state to state and jurisdiction to jurisdiction, the state determines what the program looks like. So in Texas, we have something that's called PACE in a Box, and it's administered by the Texas PACE Authority,
Mhm.
which prescribes the methodology which they use to calculate savings, as well as some of the items they put in place to protect the owners, such as the project having to have an SIR, a savings investment ratio of one.
Mhm.
In that case, what they're doing there is making sure that one, the project pays for itself, and they
Right.
also require a third party engineer to verify the energy savings metrics that I have come up with to drive and develop the project.
That makes sense.
So that brings us actually to a really interesting place. We put together a case study on a PACE project that we are currently wrapping up here in the city of Houston. It happened to be the first PACE project done for a nonprofit in the city of Houston. Our client is the Houston Business Development Incorporated. They're a small business incubator, and they were looking for funds for capital improvements.
Mhm.
They were looking to get a bank loan for beautification and some small efficiency projects, primarily looking at a way to figure out how to get their HVAC replaced.
Mhm.
Altogether, it was going to take about 5 years to complete based on the capital plan that they had designed. Then two things happened. CPACE happened and COVID. With COVID, we had to rethink how our project could maximize the health and safety, as well as to provide the utility and operational savings. With CPACE, HBDi was able to access far more capital than originally anticipated, allowing us to expand the total amount of projects that we completed and reducing the time to install.
Wow, really nice.
Yeah, it's very, very, very exciting project. We ended up installing higher efficiency LED interior and exterior lights,
Mhm.
replacing their rooftop units and adding controls. We installed window film, and initially, when the project was designed, they wanted a revolving door in their storefront, and we ended up installing sliding touchless doors, creating a ventilated vestibule at the front facade,
Mhm.
which actually created a containment space and a safety space, which now people can go enter and exit the building, knowing that it's a clean space, going in as a COVID implication. These improvements didn't just provide energy cost savings, they also provided significant intangible benefits.
Mhm.
The lighting increases tenant productivity, improves safety, and reduces eye strain. The HVAC replacement improves indoor air quality and reduces ambient noise. The touchless double door sliding doors ensure tenant safety and health. The window film went further along to improve the tenant's comfort in their offices. As a result, HBDI went from 40% occupancy to 80% occupancy. Is now is looking to obtain a green building certification to increase its occupancy even further.
That's really amazing. And all during COVID.
And all during COVID, exactly. So, um, to familiarize you with how CPACE financing looks and feels, we're providing a sample term sheet. A CPACE lender will provide a custom term sheet for your specific project based on the building value and outstanding mortgages. They will work with you on terms, the interest rate, amount of financing, any down payment, etc. The term sheet will also be influenced by the state's programs. Some states allow up to 20-year financing, and other states allow up to 25 years. It will also show your annual payment, projected energy savings, and how the loan cash flow will look for the life of the financing.
Excellent.
Here's the real kicker. Here's CPACE's finance financial advantages. To underscore how CPACE add value, I want to provide a summary of how CPACE compares financially to conventional loans or even self-funding.
Mhm.
As shown in this table, CPACE covered the entire cost of the project with no out-of-pocket building, with nothing out of the pocket from the building owner.
Mhm.
CPACE financing can be used with all available incentives, rebates, and tax credits at the state and federal levels.
Mhm.
For any renewable projects, we typically always use the MACR's depreciation and the investment tax credit. In the case of the HBDI project, it was funded at a 20-year term at 6.25%, whereas a bank loan would have typically been a 5-year term at 5.5%. Even with a higher interest rate, because CPACE has a longer amortization schedule, the actual annual payment is lower under CPACE than financing through conventional financing.
Mhm.
As an aside, CPACE can be a lot easier than conventional financing because the borrower is the building, not you.
Mhm.
As the building owner, you don't have to submit credit reports or provide your personal guarantee. You just need to provide the building address and let someone like Key develop the project and handle that process.
That's really nice.
And I want to call out a really important aspect of CPACE financing, the ROI to you and your building.
Mhm.
Texas and many other states with active CPACE programs requires its projects to have a savings to investment ratio of 1 or greater. That means that the savings you enjoy from these improvements must match or exceed the cost of financing. So if you finance 1.1 million, then you must be able to save at least 1.1 million over the duration of the loan.
That makes sense.
You can also see the CPACE advantages from a cash flow perspective. Again, repayment is stretched out over 20 years, resulting in a positive cash flow through year 15. The drop off is due to the end of useful life for some of the installed equipment, even though total financing reaches 20 years. So
Mhm.
even though you'll pay more interest with CPACE financing in the long term, because it's a 20-year loan, your annual payments are much lower than a bank loan. Plus, with your projects, you must generate enough utility savings to at least service the CPACE debt. So you have to be at least cash flow neutral from day one. In most cases, you'll be cash flow positive. And these savings are not verified by me, but as I said earlier, a third party engineer to ensure you get the savings I'm projecting.
Yeah.
In contrast, bank loans result in negative cash flow from day one through year five of the project. For a building owner who is looking to own a building for only a few years, this is a particularly important benefit because they enjoy the positive cash flow from day one instead of an immediate negative cash flow that would be harder to sell the building.
Mhm.
Plus, with the improvements installed on the building, it raises the building's value, making it more valuable and easier to sell in the long run.
Yeah.
The C pace advantage is even more pronounced when you start to look at repayment. Under C pace, you only need to repay the financing once a year during the property tax time. In contrast to a bank loan, you may need to, which may need to be repaid as frequently as monthly. So it's a lot easier on your overall cash flow.
Yeah.
The benefits to Houston Business Development Incorporated. CPACE provided enormous benefits for HBDI and their building. From day one, these improvements will save HBDI more on their utility costs than it will cost them to repay their financing. So they're cash flow positive from day one. Originally, they were going to put down 5 million of their own money to use for these improvements. With CPACE, they didn't have to put down anything. With the flexibility of eligible CPACE measures, HBDI not only installed more projects than they inspected, but they were also able to install COVID safe improvements for the tenants' welfare and safety.
Mhm.
Finally, these improvements double their tenant occupancy, providing more revenues in the long term.
Yeah. And it's really nice because now that $5 million can go to something else to help grow their business.
Yeah, I watched them pave the parking lot, which they had deferred for 4 years, and it was really in need of. But
Mhm.
this really was like what I refer to as a capital stack deferment. They were able to use the PACE funds for immediate things and defer that capital that they were going to spend and use it somewhere else. And it goes to, especially for a nonprofit, it had an opportunity to go to service and serve their mission, which is
Mhm.
a really rewarding part about doing this project for this particular client.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. And so now you got to be thinking, where is CPACE and how can I get to CPACE? CPACE is almost nationwide. CPACE has been enabled via legislation in 36 states, plus the District of Columbia, of which 24 states have active programs. The map here shows the states that have enabled CPACE, as well as how robust their local programs are. The
Mhm.
commercial space alone, 2.1 billion has been invested in 2,560 projects, resulting in a whopping 24,000 new jobs.
Wow.
In terms of top dollar investments, California, Ohio, Connecticut, Texas, and Minnesota claim the top five spots, totaling $1.4 billion financed.
That's amazing.
It really is. And the majority of these projects have been in energy efficiency, but there have been many that included renewable energy, much like the project I finished for HBDI. We put in a 110 kW roof mounted solar array, which is really beautiful. And a new trend is happening now is financing resiliency projects. And we're here in Texas in the heart of hurricane country. And not uncommon for us to endure power outages for a day or two at a time after a storm event.
Mhm.
What we did for HBDI, using these PACE funds, we were able to put in um, full backup generation for their building. So at no point will they be offline. So they have a backup diesel generator
Oh,
combined with 110 kW solar array system. So they won't have any interruption and actually becomes a safe haven
mhm.
in a time when many people are impacted by storms.
That is incredible.
He provides start to finish CPACE project development services. We can scope out the project, help you obtain your financing, submit the project for approval, and handle the installation. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any question about any aspect of CPACE.
Thank you so much, Kareem. I think what you talked about today gave a great overview of the entire project, the process, the benefits. And I really do believe this is an underutilized tool of financing that so many of our customers or prospective customers could use. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this. And for everyone who's viewing, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. This has been amazing. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yep. All right. You take care.
You do the same.